Morning folks, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, I surely appreciate your support. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Every little bit helps, guys, and it all goes towards like-minded folks just like yourself and me trying to build this business and trying to get the good word out, if you will, spread the good word of better built whitetail hunting properties. Today we're going to dive right into this one. We're going to touch on a couple topics here before you build, what to do, what things to focus on before you just go in and grab a chainsaw. Today's video, guys, is just that. Let's talk about a few things to think about before you dive right in and start those builds. So the number one thing, guys, right off the bat that we're going to talk about is very important. Like I said, kind of scary to think already that we wait all year for the hunting season, and then we go right into what we refer to as the habitat season, right? I can honestly tell you that I don't dread ending the hunting season near as much as I used to, because once you get bit by this habitat bug, I'm telling you what, guys, it's kind of a second addition, if you will, to having to the outdoors, right? To a connection to your property. Going into this one, guys, this time of the year, everybody wants to start gearing up for just that. But before, like I said, before you grab that chainsaw and you just go in because you've heard the latest and greatest news on social media or wherever you're getting that information from a buddy that did this, right? Make sure that you know you have a good set plan in place. Now, I'm hoping that some of them strategies that you're going into with, right, came from the channel, from the channel here, and you have a good knowledge of really what that is meant for, right? Why are you building it? So before we go into that, guys, before we go into a lot of in-depth builds, let's keep it simple. I'm going to talk you through a couple things here that jump right out to me that everyone needs to understand before you dive in the field with a chainsaw. Number one, doe bedding. I see a lot of folks around the country focusing their attention on bucks. I always refer to my clients with this. Our minds are wrapped around the buck, right? You very seldom hear folks telling hunting stories about the biggest doe they killed, right? So maybe a bunch of does and it was a fun trip or fun outing with the family or some hunting partners, right? But as far as getting that geared up, what we're out there to, excel with is older age structure bucks or big, beautiful, the mecca of trying to reach that 200-inch club, right? So doe bedding. Behind the doe bedding, that's what we always talk about, guys. What do we mean by always try to be behind the does? In the perfect world, in the perfect storm, with the perfect property, right? But how many times does that happen? Our goal for you is to get you behind the does. The reason that we say, and I focus so much attention on putting folks behind the does, and this is a topic I get all the time. I can't get behind the does. And I'm worried about your strategies because you're always focused about getting behind the does. I can't physically get behind the does. Guys, I've never set foot on a property. That I couldn't get folks behind the movement, right? So being directly behind the does is not a good thing. We don't want to build or be directly behind you as the hunter, directly behind your doe bedding areas. At that point, guys, it's no different than being on top of or sitting between two buck bedding areas, right? It's the same theory. So when you hear me talk about being behind the does, remember and put some more thought into why I'm saying that we are not behind the does. We are setting up to hunt the movement behind the does. Big difference between being behind the does as a stationary position in the stand and being behind the movement or hunting the movement that goes behind the does, right? So as some clarification there, just remember when you hear me use that, I'm not always saying, hey, you have to be behind the does. So, and here's the reason why. In ridge country, sometimes that's easier than in flat ground. Sometimes I pick up some flatter ground property that's easier to conquer that than hill country. Every property has its own amenities and every property has its own hurdles, right? So what I'm bringing this to the forefront for you guys is this. When I say that, behind that, your movement, hunting the movement, has to be behind the does. How do we make sure, how do we build that so you can experience that cruising buck mentality behind the movement of the does? So it's kind of a little gray topic, right? Because we always refer to it as behind the does, right? So we're talking about being on the downwind side of the doe bedding areas. So does that always mean that that's behind, so your food plot, your doe bedding, and then always behind? No, it does not. It does not always mean that it's food plot, doe bedding, then the line of travel. And here's the reason why. Your access is number one. Your build is number two. Meaning, when you access the farm, the way that you are going to set that cruising mentality past those doe bedding areas is how you're getting into that stand location that you're going to hunt. If you cannot physically get behind the does down a fence row because the habitat is plugged right off from, or maybe it's too tight in there, right? You can't physically get behind there on like a PM or even an AM sit where you know, even though you'd think the does aren't in the bedding areas, if you can't physically get behind those locations, guys, what that tells me is you need to focus on where you're at with your stand location per your access. So, perfect example is this. And we're going to draw a little sketch out here for you guys. So here's a more clear look, guys, right directly at what we're talking about today. I took the time here to kind of put this on the board in more of a color-coded deal here for you. So we were talking about the access right here, right? Truck parked out here on the road, access in, fence line continues on. You got more of the core in here, the property, but you're accessing in here to a blind. Most blinds, like we said, most people want to set them out here looking into the field. None of this built. What I'm recommending that you take a peek at this year is doing just that. This is actually a complete replica of what I've got at the farm here at a location that I can show you from above on the aerial. But what I've got right here, guys, sometimes it's easy to, you know, draw it out in marker so you can see it here. What I've got is this access in. This blind actually looks into, and this drops down. Keep in mind the food's high, and the doe bedding is on a bench system and on a ridge here. And then this line of travel, this is the bottom. This water hole is 75 yards from that blind down in. So this is timber, scattered timber through here, and I'm looking down into this. So the front of the blind, like I said here, guys, the front of the blind is actually looking down into the timber instead of looking out into the food plot. And why do we do that? I guess in theory, you could have the blind looking out there as well. But what I do this for is to put emphasis, guys, and put the importance of putting your emphasis in looking into the timber to catch this line of movement. So you're looking into the timber, you're looking into the water hole down here. I've got the food plot up high, and the reason you can see we didn't slam the doe bedding right up tight to the food plot, that's all secure. In this side of this, mine is actually switchgrass. This is switchgrass as well. And I've actually got a wall here going in, a wall of miscanthus this year, but I'm going to try to put some rhizomes in. But I think what we're going to do is, you know, Egyptian wheat, we'll label it Egyptian wheat right now. Shot plot off the end of it, a separation though, so it just helps this, right? It helps you get in and out. Shot plot right here, but as you can see, guys, these are my doe bedding cubicles right here, right? And what this is as he slides down through here, most of the time I do make a path or mulch a trail or cut a trail out to the food plot, right? So if they want to, the does or whatever the case is, if this is a good and secluded, you're in a low pressure area state, maybe you will go out in the food plot. But instead of making this right tight to the food plot, I've got this line of travel that's open down through here, 20 to 30 yards, you know, maybe depending on the debris, maybe it's only 30 feet, but a soft edge, and you're putting him behind this, you're opening up this line of travel, mulching it 5-6 feet wide through here, let's say, and not a straight line, but it's, you know, it's got a nice curve to it down through here. Your doe bedding is in these cubicles. The reason for that is when you're here in this one, thermal's raising in the morning, I can get in here because I'm off the end of the food plot. this food plot can have deer in it. So in here, thermals in the AM are rising. The wind is in my favor. So like this situation, south wind, the wind's in my favor and the wind works for him. As he's coming down in here, thermals are coming at the side of his head. He's using his eyes ahead of him and he's scent checking everything that's coming out of this doe bedding. And he slides down in. This is the other trail that comes out of the bottom, comes right up into the shot plot. This one intersects. So in theory, you could have a bow set right here if you wanted to, as long as you can get off that plot. Comes in, comes down the bottom into the drink. I see a lot of bucks doing this time of the year on the farm, guys, as they slide down through. If you had a camera out here only on the food plot, you'd never know that this cruising is going down through. This line of travel, guys, is a rut cruising corridor or a rut cruising path. You know, it's very strong. Let's just say that, right? So it's all about, like we said, guys, knowing your access first, your build second, and why you're building this, and not slamming the door in his face. So it continues right on. The reason I drew this out for you guys is my transition comes down, and this looks tight here, but I mean, I've got plenty of distance here between my food plot. Don't let that alarm you. I come in down here. I'm able to hunt this food plot with that doe bedding. As you can see, that doe bedding's not slammed on the front of that either. I'm able to hunt this corner stand, which we call the big cedar stand. I'm able to hunt this right here because this line of travel is open. It's promoted by Habitat Pockets that he's scent checking when I'm able to hunt it. He's able to scent check it, slides him back through here, slide the doe bedding back just a little bit, slide him down through. He's scent checking all of that. Everything that's on here on his line of travel is good for him, and it's good for you. At some point around this, it's going to be in your favor and in his, guys. And if you promote it that way, you will have a better chance to hunt him in that situation. That is why we are talking about today about building the access, or making sure your access, finding out what your access allows. And that definition, you don't always have to be behind, because in this case, behind the does would mean, your stand location would be in here, right? What behind the does is this, guys. You're hunting the movement that goes behind or downwind of the doe bedding area, right? This is why we're off to the side hunting it, but we're allowing that downwind approach and for him to slide through. Now, like I said, in my situation, I can get behind the doe bedding because I can get down here on my fence row just the way the property lays out. If you can't accomplish this from here down, this is a very strong situation right here just to design as far as bow and or a gun set, right? If you don't have the availability to do the rest of this and you can't physically get behind the doe bedding, you are still behind the movement. You're still promoting the line of travel. You're still promoting that movement on the downwind side of your doe bedding, and he does not have to expose himself out in that field. Works for you, works for him. Hope that one clears that up just a little bit more, guys. Thanks. It's a huge point, guys. I wish everybody could experience, such as what I've got here on the farm. I wish everybody could build a property to experience that secure line of travel 360 degrees around your farm like I build, guys. It will totally change the way you hunt. But in closing, just remember this strong point, guys. Being behind, when you hear me use the term, you have to be behind does, doesn't always mean that you're physically behind them. You're hunting the wind, the downwind side, whether that's this side or that side, whatever, where you're able to hunt it per your access. You're on the downwind side of the doe bedding, and it doesn't always mean that you have to physically be behind the does. So take that one into consideration, guys, before you start the chainsaws this year. Appreciate you tuning in on this one. Like I said, we'll see you on the next video, and I surely appreciate you tuning in. If this one helps you, maybe it helps someone else, feel free to, like I always ask, guys, is like, share, and comment and share this content, right? It helps everybody that's tuning in. So we'll see you on the next one, guys, but a very important piece of the puzzle going into the habitat season. Thanks, guys.